What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about callbacks, promises, and async await. So people are always wondering what are callbacks, promises, the difference between those two, and then the new thing that came out, which is async and await. Well, we're going to be talking about that today, so let's get to it. What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about callbacks, promises, and async await. So we're going to start off with callback, and we're going to actually give a simple phrase on what is a callback. So a callback is a function to be executed when another function is done executing. So it's a function that it is going to be executed once another function is done executing. So it's dependent on the first function. Okay, so we're going to get into some examples. We're going to create a calculator, just a simple calc, right? We're going to pass in 2, 3, and then we're going to add a string add. Right. All right. And here we're gonna do, var. I don't even know what to name it. I'm gonna just do var add, I guess. Equals. It's gonna equal a function, right? It's gonna take in A and B. Oh, I'm sorry. We're doing this cal, right? So calc. I don't even know why I did that. So I'll do function, right? Calc. A, B, and then thing. The thing that you want to do. So I'm gonna put thing. I don't even know. Thing that you want to do. Right? Operation. That's what it is. Operation. That's what it was. Operation. The operation you want to do, right? So we're going to add if statements right here. If operation equals add, right? You're going to just do A plus B. You're going to return A plus B, right? And we could add some other ones in here if you wanted to. Else if operation equals I'm just do multiply. You're gonna return, right? 8 times B. It's pretty simple stuff, right, guys? It's pretty simple. All right, so we got this cal 2, 3. We'll just grab this and put it down here, right? And we're gonna just log it out. Log. Control save. Now we're gonna just run it here, and you get 5 back. That's what we expected. But what if we took this add and made it into its own function, and this multiply and made it into its own function, right? Let's actually see if molt works. I'm pretty sure it does. Yeah, 6. Okay. But let's take these out of here. So because this is bad habits. You shouldn't get into these habits where you have this one function that does everything. This one function should just take in 2 parameters at most, probably 3, and then other functions should be doing other things, right? It's functional programming. I'm not going to get into that, but essentially, we're going to do this. And we're going to just do molt. So var molt equals a function, right? It's going to take an A and B. And in here, instead of doing this as a string, we're going to just, We're gonna call it molt. And here we're gonna return A times B, right? And here, operation, this is going to be changed back to a callback. And we're going to return callback A and B. All right. So let me explain to you what's happening right now. Okay. Like I stated in the beginning, a callback is a function to be executed when the other function is done executing. Okay. So calc 2.3 molt. So 2.3 molt is passed in here. And in here it says return callback, which callback is molt. So imagine this being molt. I'm gonna do it right now, and then return molt, right? AB. So it goes over here, does this thing, it's gonna return this to here now, and then it's gonna return this to here, and we should get 6. Okay. Let me just do this callback again. Copy, paste, save it. We should get 6. We get 6. See that? So this is a function that's going to be executed. This is, see this? See this? Callback, function, right? It's executing it. So this is going to be executed once this is done. This is going to be executed once this is done. You've seen it a lot of times, man. You've seen it really. It's literally a function inside a function. You've seen it where, I'm pretty sure you've seen it if you developed before, but when you request something from an HTTP, from a website, request some URL, google.com, right? You always get this, you always see this function, error, response, and body. You will always see this, and then you always do something with body, right? Body dot title or something like that, right? You always see this. This right here is a callback because it's inside a function. It's being passed in as a parameter inside a function. See, request is already a function. It's taken in 2 parameters or arguments, right? The first argument is this website. The second one is a function. That's a callback. When you see a function inside another function, that's a callback. Okay, that's literally, you're calling back. You're waiting for that function to finish. So the request is going to request something from Google, right? You're waiting. This other, let me bring it back. This other function is going to wait on this until this finishes. And then once this finishes, it's going to go back into this function and then do this. That's exactly what we're doing here. Right? So we got this parameter, right? 2.3, cal 2.3 right here, 2.3. Going to get passed in. Call back, which is molt. It's waiting for this to happen. It's going to pass it in here, and then you get 6. But let's take it a step further and get a little bit more complicated with this, with callbacks. Okay, so let's get 2 functions in here. Function one's going to be double after 2 seconds, right? The other one's going to be add, right? And then we're going to just call add. Add is going to take a parameter, 2 arguments, x, and a function. It's going to take a callback. Remember, callback is the function inside a function. So we're going to pass in 10, and we're going to pass in a function right now. Sum log sum. Control save. Okay, in here, we already know that we want a double after 2 seconds, right? So we're gonna actually call it here double after 2 seconds, right? We're gonna pass it an X, and here we're gonna get an X, and we're gonna put a set timeout to what's it called, to actually like make it believe, or oh my god, that the word is right there. Oh my goodness, I don't even know. I'm forgetting the word. What is the word? Simulate. There it goes. Simulate. It's going to simulate, like if we're actually grabbing something like a request. It's going to simulate a request where we actually go out somewhere like a database, or we're fetching something from an API. That takes time, right? Well, this is simulating that kind of, right? It's going to simulate it for 2 seconds. Simulate. Jesus. All right. So you get this. This function sum, and as you know, node is asynchronous, right? If we actually try to just do this right now, log, if you try to log that out, let me get rid of this. Return. Okay, if you try to log this out right now, you're going to get undefined. The reason why, I'll show you right now. Undefined. The reason why is because node is asynchronous. Remember that. So this return is not going to wait 2 seconds to come and do this and then this. So imagine you're trying to get weather from an API, right? So I'm actually right here. I'm requesting a weather, right? And this is the weather API that's not even in my system, it's somewhere else, but I'm requesting weather, right? That weather is not going to come when it's going to come in, I don't know, 2 seconds, 5 minutes, 1 hour. I don't know, right? So you can't just count to log it without even having it. You don't even have it yet. You're returning something that you don't even have yet. Remember, node is asynchronous, so this is going to print out no matter what. It's going to print out something, right? Right now, it printed out undefined because it doesn't know what that is. It doesn't know what the weather is because it's dependent on this. It's dependent on grabbing the weather, right? So this double, this add 10 is dependent on this double, which takes 2 seconds to run, right? But node doesn't wait on anybody. So it's going to give you undefined. So how do you get this? How do you grab it? How do you get the value for it, right? And this is where callbacks come in, because we're going to actually get a callback, right? And this callback, actually I'll do it right now. And this callback saying after this finishes it, after we get the weather or whatever, it's going to log it out. It's going to log it out, right? So add X. We're going to return here. Return X. Control save. Okay, now this is still going to give you undefined. I'll prove it to you. Or it's going to give you nothing back. The reason why is because this still takes X times 2. Okay, so let's take this one step at a time. Add 10 and then a function, right? But like I said in the beginning, a callback is executed after the other function is executed, right? So add 10. Oh boy. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, add 10. Go in here and say, okay, this is 10. There's a function. I don't really care about that right now, so I'm going to stick right here. So we're going to go here with 10. Okay, let's go in here with 10. Oh, this is going to take 2 seconds. It's going to return undefined. It's going to come back here, say undefined, and then you're still going to get undefined here. Or you're going to get nothing because it returns nothing. Sorry about that, guys. It doesn't return nothing. It's correct. This needs another callback because this callback is dependent on this set timeout. It's dependent on this set timeout. So this function is dependent on this 10 being ran, right? Right here. This callback is dependent on this X being run by double. You go up here. Now this X is dependent on this set timeout. Because you're returning X times 2, right? But it's inside timeout. It's dependent on this set timeout, which is for 2 seconds. And then it'll give it, and then give it, and then give it, and then you count log. So we need another callback inside of this. We need to do another function in here with nothing. We're going to give it A this time, and we're going to do return. Now we're going to return the callback this. Now we want to return the actual value. So we're going to do callback with A in it, right? And this, since we said it takes another callback, and we're going to return callback. And I'll explain it right now in a bit, and we should get 20. We get 20. What's up, guys? Yes. All right. So let me show you what's going on. We're calling this, so don't even focus on this right now. Add X. So we need to do this first, right? We need to return double. Well, actually, we could just take this off, Control save, and still do it. Yeah, we don't need that return there because we're returning. This is the final thing we're going to return. Sorry about that, guys. You only have one return in a function, and this is it. So in this add, we're calling this other function double after 2 seconds with the X, right? It goes over here. This X. Every time something's dependent on something, you're going to need a callback. Like request, you're requesting something from an API is dependent on the API. You see what I'm talking about? That request is dependent on the API. So you need a callback because without that callback, you're never going to get the value that you want. You're always going to get undefined because Node is too fast. You need to tell Node, come back to me later when I have the actual data. That's a callback, okay? So after the set timeout, I'm dependent on this set timeout. I call back. I'm calling back. Okay, give me what X times 2 is, which is 20. Pass in 20 here. 20 is here. Remember, so function. Pass in 20 here. Now this is right here A. Now this is 20 because it passes back to the callback, which is 20, and return callback A. So callback, you're gonna return, which is the sum of A, which is 20, and you get 20 here. Let's get a little bit more complicated. Let's do this again. So copy, paste. Now you're doing it twice. Let me just go to this B. And we're gonna do you know what? We're gonna do X plus A plus B. Okay, you see, this is getting harder to read every time we try to do this, and we're gonna change this to A. Now we should get 10 plus 20, and then plus 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know, 60, 70. Yeah, 70. I got it right first time. Damn it. Anyways, all right, this is gonna be kind of a toughy one, man. This is gonna be a toughy one. So let's look at this first. We're doing 10. We're passing in 10 here. Don't worry about this callback later because we're not even calling it right now. Don't worry about it. So 10. We're calling double after 2 seconds with 10, and it takes a callback as well. So remember, it's dependent. It's dependent on this set timeout. So it returns 20, goes in here. It's 20 now. Okay. Now I want you to double 20. So it goes over here, does this line first. It comes over here. Now I'm just waiting here, doing something. Well, I'm not waiting. Node is not waiting. All right. It's doing whatever it's saying. So this function is working on the back end while Node is doing something in something else. So once this function is done, it tells Node, hey Node, I'm done. So Node comes back and say, okay, what is it now? Oh, it's 40. Oh, I don't even know what it was. But I was like, okay, whatever that answer was, put the answer here. And it gets it here as B. Now we're going to return the callback right here. We're going to return x plus a plus b, which is 70. We're going to return 70 to this callback, which was originally right here. So we're going to return 70 to this sum and then log out sum. Now let's do it one more time. Copy and try to guess what it is, because we're going to do C. So A, there's going to be a B. There's going to be a C right here. And then C. Oh, sorry. B plus C. Control save. 130, 150, 150, 150. Should be 150. 150. All right. So we could actually go through this a little bit. Callbacks. So 10 gets passed in here, 10 gets passed. So this line right here goes first because this is a function, remember. And remember what I said in the beginning, a callback is a function to be executed after another function is done executing, right? So this needs to execute first and then this function takes over, which is a callback. So this function takes over. Remember, this is something to be called back later, and it's dependent on this. So it's waiting. It's like, okay, whatever. When it's done, okay, 10 times 2 is 20. So pass in 20 here, boom. So it goes now here, 20, boom. Okay, now we want 20, double 20. 20 times 2 is 40. Okay, boom, 40, boom. Now do it here. 40 times 2 is 80, boom, 80. Goes right here, 80. And now we're gonna do 80 plus 30 plus 20 plus 10, I think. So yeah, I think, I'm not too sure, forget. But anyways, this should equal 150. So that's a callback. Those are callbacks. It's not that hard, guys. It really isn't. It's just confusing. At times it is confusing. But now we go into promises, which I think promises, you're gonna hear a lot of people say, oh no, they're better than callbacks. I think they're basically the same. So I'm gonna just leave this alone right here. Actually, I'm gonna just copy all this and we're gonna rewrite this as a promise. So promise, like I said, I think it's the same thing as a callback. Okay. So with the promise, you got resolve and reject. If something goes good, you're gonna resolve it, right? So when you're requesting to an HTTP or Google, whatever, and it comes back with 2 thumbs up, it's like, hey, everything's okay, you're gonna resolve that promise. If Google comes back saying, hey, something went wrong, you're gonna reject the promise. So we're gonna create a new promise here. So see these callbacks? You're not gonna have these callbacks anymore. You can actually delete these promises. Technically don't use callbacks, whatever. So return new promise. And like I said, let me get rid of some of this. Return new promise, and promise takes in 2 things. It's going to take in 2 things: resolve and reject. Okay, and it's a function, but I'm going to be using fat arrow keys or fat arrow functions. So sorry about that. Okay, resolve and reject. The difference between it is that instead of the callback, instead of saying callback here, or when we did up here how we said return callback, it's gonna be a resolve, and instead of saying a function here, it's gonna be a dot then. So every callback, you're gonna replace it with a dot then. Okay, the dot this right here, this callback right here, is going to be a dot then. So this is how it's going to look like. It's literally going to look almost the same as this, but it's going to be a tad bit nicer looking. But okay, let's do it. So we're going to call, remember we're going to be calling double, right? We're going to pass it in X. And then we typically, in here, we had the callback, right? Up here, remember the callback, the function? Well, we're not going to do that. With promises, you don't have that anymore, technically. You have dot then, right? And then you're going to put in the function in here. So function, yeah. And then A, because you're going to get a response there. And then you're gonna return, or actually you don't return anything. Remember, once we're done with this, you're gonna resolve. So you're gonna resolve A. That's all. That's it. That is it for this one anyways, because we have to go up here and actually configure this one. Remember, we don't have no more callbacks. We're going to start doing promises because that's a new thing. That's hipster now. That's cool. So new, or actually return, return, new promise. And you might have heard something saying, see, it does it for me right here. We're going to just put this Control X. And you might have heard the saying something about like a promise is gonna promise you something once it's gonna promise you the data once it has it. So this is actually promising you that it's gonna give you a data once it has it, right? And instead of return here, we're gonna actually use a resolve, and don't even call it. There's no more callbacks. There is absolutely no more callbacks. You're gonna resolve this. So if you save this, you should literally get, oh wait, we gotta configure this one too, because there's no more function inside this. It's a dot then. So instead of having that function in there, you're gonna say dot then. And then I'm gonna get rid of this because I'm not sure if you know ES6, so I'm just do it the good old fashioned way. Sum, and then you're gonna log out. Log sum. Control save. If you run it, you get 20. Exactly what we wanted. So it's not that different from callbacks, as you can see. It is not that different from callbacks. The only difference is instead of having this function, you literally can just wrap it with a dot then and then pass in the function in there. This is why I say technically not a callback, but in my opinion, it is a callback still. But anyways, now let's do this 2 more times in here. So how do you do that? Remember, we're only going to resolve once we want the value that we wanted, or we want to pass back the value, right? So we're not going to resolve yet. We're actually going to do this again. So we're going to grab this, right? Just copy this, paste it. Remember dot then, and then instead of X here, we're gonna do A here. Instead of A here, we're gonna do B, because this is the response, the resolvement of what we get up here. And we're gonna do it one more time. Instead of X here, we're gonna do B here, and then C right here. And now that we want to pass in the actual value, we're gonna put resolve. Because we're done. We resolved this promise. This is a promise that we promised you, and we're resolving it. So X plus A plus B plus C. Control save. Now if you run it over here, you should get 150. Yeah, it's gonna take 6 seconds, or actually 246. Yeah, 6 seconds, because every time it does it for 2 seconds. So it's not that much different. Like I said, it's a little bit nicer, cleaner to read. It's a little bit cleaner because you could actually read this. You know what I'm talking about? Instead of this, it's kind of hard to read, right? Because you're doing double X and then function A double and then function. This is a little bit more nicer, you know, more English, you know, because you're saying double X, do this first, right? Once this is done, once this is resolved, then grab the resolvement from up here, grab that, and then do whatever you want with it again. In this case, we wanted to do 2 more double it again. But it's like, do this, then that. Do this, then that. Do this, then that. Oh, we're done? Okay, we're going to resolve the promise. It's more simpler than up here where you do this, get the function, and then do it again, get the function. This is more easier to say and easier to understand. This is why people use functions. Use promises instead of callbacks nowadays. And you're going to see this a lot more now. Now we're going to get to async and await, which is the same thing, but it's even nicer. I actually prefer async and await because it actually reads way better than this. As you're going to see, it reads way better than this. It's still, await and async still use some promises, but that's not the case. It doesn't do it all the time like this. The only thing we're going to change here is actually this one thing right here. And you're going to see a big difference. You're going to see a huge difference, okay? So we're going to have this, and we're not going to have this return no more, okay? It's going to be so cool. All right, to use async and await, we need to tell Node which function is going to be async. So in this case, this function is going to be async, right? Because it's going to be asynchronous. This is the only function that's going to be calling all of these things, right? This function is calling all of this stuff. So we have to wait on this function to finish so that way we can print it out. So this is going to be the async. We actually have this, async. We actually have to define which function is going to be async around here. Because like I said, this function does everything. You're calling everything in here. This one is calling this one here. That's why you don't have async in here, right? You don't have async right here because this one's calling it. Everything, this whole app is dependent on this one function being async. Okay, we're gonna go down here. This is where the fun actually begins. So we defined which function is gonna be the async function, the asynchronous function. Now, where does the await come from? Remember, async, await, it's 2 keywords, async and await. Async is the one we're defining the asynchronous function, and await is we're awaiting data to come back. So we're gonna do a variable, const a, a equals, and then this is the awesome part right here. Await double X. Boom. That's it. That's literally it. This is easier to read. This is so much easier to read. So you're going to just wait until this is done, which is up here, and then assign it to A. Right? That's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's pretty cool. But check this out. If I didn't have this wait here, hold up. If I didn't have this wait here, and we logged out A, we're going to get a promise back. And you'll see, we got an error. That's because we didn't return anything. Return something. We're going to return A. It doesn't matter. So we're going to get a promise back right here. This is from this. Like I said, this is going way too fast. So Node is saying, hey, well, if you want it now, I can't give it to you now, but I will return a promise, which is pending. As you can see right now, it is pending. So it returns a promise. Well, check this out. We're not going to see this promise. We got the 20 because this return A, which is going right here. But check this out. If I do a sync right here again, a sync, right, and then await. Control save, right? Like we said before, this is going to wait until this is done and then it's going to assign it to A. Check this out. We get 20 20, and we get undefined here because we didn't return anything, but we get 20. I could tell you right now, it's from here and not here. Watch, log. This is going to be from the log. Yeah, this one gets me so excited, guys. This await, sync, await. Look, log 20 and undefined because we didn't get anything down here. But this is so cool. It's so much easier to read now. But check this out. Check this out. We're still not done. We could do another const. Yes, another const. And we're going to do B this time like we always did. And we're going to do await. And we're going to do double again. And we're going to pass it in A. And we're going to do this one more time. We're going to pass it in B this time. And this is going to be C. And then finally, we're going to return. Yes, return X plus A plus B plus C. Control save that. And you should get 150. As we've always been getting. 150. But check this out. Compare this one. We came from this. We came from where's that shitty ass copy. Oh, here's the fun. I guess I erased the promises. Oh yeah, we changed it. But we came from this. Now imagine like there's sometimes I'm pretty sure you heard this term, callback hell, right? You get all these functions and it does this V shape, right? It does this V shape. You get a lot of those. You get this big V shape, right? But compare this to this. This is so much easier to read. You're just literally waiting until this is done, and then you're gonna assign it to A, and then you're gonna just keep on doing that for A, B, C, and you're gonna just return when all that is done. Just return it. And look, it's. I'm speechless, guys. It's so much easier than callbacks and promises. But guys, that is it for callbacks, promises, async, and await. Thank you so much for tuning in to this video about callbacks. It really is kind of hard to explain what callbacks are. It's just better if you actually start doing it yourselves. And I hope that this gave you a little bit of insight about what callbacks are and promises and async await. So thank you so much for watching, guys. And if you did like this video and it gave you something to think about and you actually learned something from this video, please give this a like or dislike. Leave a comment down below. We, as programmers, we always thrive on feedback, even though they're sometimes mostly all bad. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe, guys, because more things are going to come out. Actually, a weather app is going to be coming out, so please subscribe. And thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.